Tuesday, October 21st. I'm Rim.
I'm Scott.
And this is Geeknights. Tonight, Multiwinia and its demise.
Oh, you put its demise in the title.
Let's do this.
I woke up this morning, I thought, maybe
With a shotgun in your hand?
No.
Oh.
And I thought, maybe I just won't go. Just stay home today. Maybe.
You know, when I worked at IBM, anytime I thought that, I didn't go in. And when I worked at the hospital, anytime I thought that, I didn't go in.
Well, I've only got 4.5 days. Well, 2 vacation days and 2.5 sick days left, so not going is like, right? So I go. You know, I ate a cereal real quick, and I've been eating cereal again lately.
You know, I noticed you ate a cereal real quick because I came home and there was a bowl full of encrusted dried cereal that obviously had once been milked.
Yeah. And I had
and a spoon stuck in it.
I had to eat it real quick because I was going to miss that train. I got down to the train station and started walking towards the train after I parked the car, and some people were walking the other way, and I'm thinking, oh, you know, there's a train that goes the other way a little bit, you know, before my train, and you know, these must be people who were, you know, coming to Beacon from the city. People must work the night shift, right? I keep walking. Eventually, there were more people walking the other way than usual, and they didn't look like night shift people, and they were just like, yeah, 8:17's canceled.
So, wait, why walk the other way? What are you going to do? You don't have time to go home. Another train is coming.
The next train is at 9:00 something. You got a lot of time, especially if you live close like me.
Yeah, most of those people don't. I mean, plus it takes 7 minutes to drive to the train station. Plus walking back to the car.
Well, I was already only halfway from the car, so I drove home, and when I got home, I said, I have to do something in this time.
What did you do?
Well, first I said,
you know what I would have done?
Maybe I won't go.
I would have gone back to my car. I would have gone back to my car and set my cell phone alarm and taken a nap. Or
I can't sleep in the car.
I have often slept in my car. Many a road trip, the worst road trip of my life. The worst solo road trip in my life. The worst road trip in my life, you were driving. But the worst solo road trip of my life, I remember I was so tired and I had so many more miles to go that I pulled over on the side of the road and just went to sleep.
It's not a bad idea if you're tired. And
no,
you
it's a
shouldn't
terrible
be driving
idea.
Tired.
Because I woke up in the car and I'd been so used to fighting to stay awake the whole time I was on the road that I woke up, realized I was behind the wheel, screamed, and tried to stop the car.
You're supposed to sleep in the passenger seat.
Yeah, I didn't think of that. Plus, then I would have done the same thing, but simultaneously would have yelled, "Where the fuck's the steering wheel?"
No.
Jesus.
Am I in London? Anyway. Right, so I drove home and I said, maybe I just won't go.
I wouldn't have gone if I'd gotten home, I wouldn't go back to that train station.
So I'm sitting there and I'm thinking, should I go? Should I not go?
Will he stay or will he go now?
I remember at work we just merged our domain with the other domain, so the email was funky.
All right, so don't go. You're not missing anything.
I didn't even do anything at work today.
So why'd you go?
Well, you know, I went, but when I got home, I said I had to do something, so I actually cleaned up all the shit off my floor in my room and put all my clean clothes away, and also the dirty clothes away. And then I said, all right, fuck it, I went, you know, whatever.
See, speaking of which, actually, I was thinking, you know, I wonder how many vacation days I got left. I want to take a day or two off around New Year's to, you know, all the people are going to be around, get ready for the giant annual FRC New Year's bash. So I go to the HR person, and I'm like, hey, how many vacation days do I have left? And she's like, give me a minute, I'll let you know. Come back after lunch. I come after lunch, and she's like, yeah, you've got 16.
All right.
And I'm like, what? She's like, yeah, you didn't really use that many this year. And I can only roll 5 of them over to the next year. So I got to take 11 days off.
Oh, they let you roll over?
You realize the hospital let you roll over infinitely.
I can't roll over anything, not even a single day.
Infinitely. There were people who wouldn't take a vacation day for 5 years running and then disappear for a long time.
If I could roll over, I would use sick days. I would use all my sick days to go to conventions. I'd take all these Fridays off, and the next year I would just go away for a month.
That's not what sick days are for. Plus, luckily, every company I've ever worked for, sick days did not count. They were just infinite. If you were sick, don't come in.
They were infinite where I work until we got bought. Yeah. Everything changed.
Well, actually, the hospital, it was complicated because they gave us flex time that counted for any time
See,
you took
flex
off.
time
but-
is supposed to mean work 40 hours. We don't
well,
care
no,
which hours.
I also had that, and I had, as long as I worked, billed 37.5 hours per week, I was in the clear.
Even if it was Monday, Tuesday, and that was it?
Theoretically, yeah.
Yeah, see, I love that.
Well, the thing is, at the hospital, because of the independent nature of my work, there are very few people who would have noticed if I was not there. Like, I could have once, near the end, like after I resigned myself to quitting, I didn't show up one day. You know, I was actually like kind of sick, so I just didn't go in, and I emailed the HR person, whatever. I didn't realize that the HR person I emailed had quit like a month before. So basically, no one knew
They
I
didn't
wasn't.
set up the email to forward to the new HR person?
There's a reason I'm working for this other company now.
Right.
But like, no one noticed I was gone.
Well, I took so far this year 10 vacation days, and I have 2 left. I also have 2.5 sick days because now we don't have infinite sick days anymore. They gave everyone 2.5 because they bought us in June, the middle of the year, and they usually give 5.
See, I thought I used a lot more than I did, but then I realized that I had 5 rolled over from the previous year.
Right. And then I was trying to figure out what the actual holiday days off were. Apparently, this company gives, Christmas Day, New Year's Day, but they also have 4 Christmas holiday days. Which are pretty much
snap.
the days between Christmas and New Year's. So I think I can use my 4.5 days and get, basically the end of the year off. And then, because after New Year's, it's a new year, and there's that one Friday in there. I can use the next year's day to get that off too.
See, I think I actually have to work the Friday after New Year's because everyone else in my company is taking that day off. But I got all these vacation days to burn, so I'm probably going to take like the week before it off. And I'm going to spend the rest of the days skiing. Like, I'm just going to like take every Wednesday off in December. And
Also,
go
in the
ski.
middle of November, when a whole company goes to Puerto Rico, I have 2 days, so it's going to be good too.
Oh, so you don't have to go to Puerto Rico?
No, I just, I said I RSVP'd no, and that was it.
No. All this drama, and everyone's like, hey, is Scott going? Is Scott going? I guess that's the answer.
Well, it's not what was the drama? It was just,
There was drama for everyone but you, apparently. Anyway, there's actual video game news. And I'm excited about this. I haven't been excited about many video game things in recent memory. I mean,
well, the main reason, like, there are a lot of I used to, really anticipate games and buy them and then beat them right away. The problem I'm having, right, is not that there's no games to anticipate.
there's no time to play them, blah, blah, blah.
Exactly.
Yeah,
I got
you
a
say
whole
this-
bunch.
Yeah.
I have a whole bunch of games that are unplayed. I haven't even touched Mega Man 9. I played like Gem Man
You haven't
once.
touched Mega Man 9. I've beaten 2 of the Robot Masters.
Only 2. That's nothing.
I've only played a couple hours. What do you want?
Anyway.
But let's see. I'm excited about Left 4 Dead. I'm excited about Fallout.
I already pre-ordered Left 4 Dead.
I should. I was excited about Bionic Commando. I was not disappointed. That game was like the best game I played since Portal, hands down. Oh my god. And I'm excited, almost surprisingly, about Punch-Out for the Wii. Now you might
Why
think,
wouldn't you be excited for Punch-Out?
I didn't really like the Super Nintendo. I basically liked no iteration of Punch-Out other than Mike Tyson's Punch-Out.
What's wrong with Super Nintendo Punch-Out?
It just wasn't as good. It didn't have as much character. I mean, it had Gabby J.
Gabby J.
Yay.
Yay.
But there was something about Mike Tyson's Punch-Out. None of this Mr. Dream. I'm talking Mike Tyson's Punch-Out. But basically, Nintendo has been screwing me left and right with new games. Like, WarioWare for the GameCube was one of the best games that has ever been on a Nintendo platform. And of course, Nintendo had no idea why it was a good game, and thus, the same game released on the Wii was one of the worst games Nintendo has ever released. But, I expected them to do the same thing with Punch-Out. I expected it to be some, like, waggle BS. I expected it to have, like...
It probably is going to be Waggle BS.
Yeah, see, if it is, then I'm probably not going to be excited anymore. But
Of course it's going to be. How could
basically,
it not be?
Nintendo has this history of getting the right things wrong and the wrong things right in, like, every remake of a game they make, with rare exception. And I was really worried that Punch-Out was going to be generic. It was going to be all, like, Mii's fighting each other and none of the original charm. The trailer for Punch-Out on the Wii came out, and if any of you have not seen it, I recommend that you stop listening, go, click on that link and watch it, because let me tell you, all the racism is there, and it's surprising, but that excites me more. Well, not racism, nationalistic stereotypes.
You see, that's the one part of the game that they could have removed, and I wouldn't have been upset. As long as they had the quality gameplay of the original, the simple yet complex nature of a boxing game where you only have, 5 attacks and 3 or 4 dodges and that's it. And that's what I was looking for.
See, it's
but
kind
the
of
fact
like,
that they brought back these hilarious nationalist stereotypes.
see, there's conflation, like in genes, where like the genes for something like red hair might be conflated with the genes for something else. So people with one genetic trait will often exhibit another seemingly unrelated genetic trait. Games are the same way, and I feel as though by getting that right, by having the croissants flying through the air out of Glass Joe after you knock him out, and such, and by having the Kaiser and King Hippo in the game, and the game looks like it's just basically a straight-up remake of the original Punch-Out. By getting that right, I'm confident that they have gotten all the right things right and the wrong things also right because they're not there.
See, the thing is, I've been deceived by, the images too many times. I no longer fall for that.
Like what? I mean, WarioWare for the Wii, we were deceived by the name. There was no image. There was no, thing where I said, oh, look, they know what they're doing.
Except the dancing cats.
See, the thing is, I already knew the game was bad by the time I got to the dancing cats.
I don't know. There's been plenty of games out there that, they get the visuals or the audios right, to
but
bring
this
back
isn't
the
just
nostalgia,
that.
but the gameplay isn't there.
It's very specifically that they kept the nationalistic stereotypes. They kept the thing that you expected them to drop first. They kept the hardest, and that gives me more hope than anything anyone ever could have said.
I have no hope because it's going to be some waggly controlled thing. It's not going to be an actually well controlled thing. It's.
I don't think so. I'll bet what it's going to be is there's probably going to be some sort of waggle option, and maybe you waggle to do like the super punch or something. But I'll bet that there is an option. Just hold that controller sideways. In fact, I'll bet $10.
I'm not betting against it, but I'm not too confident about it.
I'm $10 confident.
And you know what? I can wait on it. I got plenty of games going on right now. Like, for example, the WarioWare, whatnot. What's it called? Not WarioWare.
I was going to say, there's only one good WarioWare game. What are you talking about?
Wario, what'd they call it? The Shake, Wario Shake, which is the business. It's finally.
You don't even know the name of your favorite current game. The game you're currently playing.
I'm not actually currently playing it. I'm semi-currently playing it.
You were playing it.
Concurrently playing it with many other games.
What games are you even playing?
I'm playing Natural Selection, Zelda 3.
You're playing that?
Yeah.
And I've resolved not to because I've tried to replay that game like 6 times since I originally played it as a kid, and I'll get about halfway through the Dark World, and I'll just, something will rise in my gut, and suddenly I'll go, God damn it, never mind, and just put the controller down and give up.
Yeah, I'm playing some, that Tetris game, I guess. Tetris Party.
Yeah, that's really not a single-player game, though.
Oh, it has single-player mode.
I don't know. I'm done with playing Tetris by myself. Tetris
That's
is a
why
game.
you suck at it. Because you don't practice.
I note that I beat you in almost all of those modes we played. Handily.
No, you ruined us in the co-op mode.
I noticed that you were
the modes you beat
pieces.
me in were not Tetris-y modes. They were,
they were modes that
racing
required
mode.
much higher level cortical input.
Oh, the racing mode was so much better than the regular Tetris.
What bothers me about the racing mode, Scott, is that it was trivial to beat. I could have beaten it with my eyes closed, one hand.
Yeah, the only reason you won is because at the start I was trying to figure out how it worked, and you just held down right away, and thus that tiny head start I could not catch up because we went at the same speed.
You realize that's the reason why I tend to. I have a record of when we get a new board game, I'll win the first instance of that game 90% of the time, but then I'll lose the next 4. Because every game, I just hold down immediately. I don't care what the rule. I'm just going to hold down because you'll probably win the first round that way.
Yeah, you're depth first and I'm breadth first.
Yeah, so if I only play every game ever once, I'll be the undisputed champion of every game, and then I'll retire.
Well, as long as you're playing against people who've never played before.
Yeah, so I got
who are doing breadth first.
I have to play.
Not depth first like you.
I have to play brand new games and only play them once.
Right.
All I have to say is I am excited about this. The video gives me confidence, more confidence than I would expect. And also, I point out that one of the most played games on our Wii, even today, is Mike Tyson's Punch-Out.
Yeah, I don't know what it is about that Punch Out, the old NES one, but
It's
the fact
so
that
good.
the
It's
fact
just-
that it has a good control with the, as opposed to even on the NES, that game controlled very, difficultly.
It's a perfect game. Like, it's the perfect implementation of that specific game. Like,
You can just pick
You
it up,
could've
fight
made-
bull, and put it down.
you could have made a better game, but that game itself, I don't think there's anything anyone could say is wrong with it.
It doesn't have more guys.
That's like saying that Citizen Kane
Where's
sucked
the Australian guy?
because it should have been longer.
Yeah.
Anyway, what do you have for me?
Well, it's not for you. Who says it's for you?
Well, I want some news here. I mean,
I got news. It's
You don't
not for
seem so
you.
interested in my news. So what do you got?
You know what's 30 years old?
Your mom?
No, my mom's a lot older than 30.
All right.
If my mom was 30, that means she had me when she was 3 or 4. How about that?
There could be a time tomb. Anyway.
Don't be talking about that. 30 years ago, today, in 1978, the MMO was born. Now, a lot of people think, oh, no, the first MMO, ask some kid, what was the first MMO? He'll be like, EverQuest, or maybe he'll say Asheron's Call, or maybe he'll be smart and say something like Meridian 59 or The Realm.
If they say The Realm, they're smart, because that is the answer. That is the first graphical, massively multiplayer online role-playing game.
No, there were ones with graphics before The Realm. They just weren't 3D.
The Realm wasn't really 3D.
It was a first-person perspective, wasn't
No,
it?
it wasn't.
No? I thought it
No,
was.
Meridian 59. No, The Realm was not a first-person
Wasn't
game.
Ultima Online older than...
No, The Realm was the first one.
I'm going to have to go look that up. But anyway, the point
Good
is...
God, am I sure? Don't debate me on this. Anyway,
I'll debate you easily. Here we go.
you're wrong.
I'm going to look right now, Mr.
All right, so we got to kill airtime while you go to Wikipedia?
All right, let's see. The Realm came out 5 months before Meridian 59.
Yes.
Which was in...
Yes.
Hold on.
Come on.
December 31st, 1996.
Yes.
Ultima Online. Released. Okay, 97.
Yeah, what was that? What was that?
Anyway.
What was that? Did I just win?
The point
I'm feeling
is...
competitive tonight.
is that none of the... Those games are not the first MMOs. The first MMO was Mud 1 at Essex, as in Essex, the college in Britain. And that game came out in 1978. And all it was... I don't think a lot of people out there know what MUDs are. They might have heard of MUDs. A MUD is a multi-user dungeon. Basically, the first MUD, they took the dungeon mode in Zork, right, which is a basically text adventure game, right? And they just made it so that multiple people could move around in the dungeon at the same time. And the way it worked is there'd be a server. You would telnet to the server, and in your terminal, right? So there's one computer, a PDP-11 or a PDP-10, an old ass, digital machine. Everyone on their terminal connects to the machine, and you go around the dungeon, north, east, south, kill rat, kill other guy. And everyone else is also in the same place. So if you go into the same room that someone else happens to be in, it says, Rim is here.
All right. So what's the difference between massively multiplayer and multiplayer?
There's been massively multiplayer and multiplayer.
Because you can't just say stateful, stateless, because you could have a game, like, I don't know, you could have any kind of game that's multiplayer that's stateful. And you can meet each other you can have a MUD that only 2 people play.
The difference is the number of players. You see, in a multiplayer game, something like Counter-Strike, right? You have many, many, many servers, and each server has this limit of, say 30 players. So even where Tribes 2 has a limit of 60 players, or there's some other games out there, I've seen some FPSs where the servers have a limit of 100-something players.
All right.
It's not massive. What's massive is when the server takes infinity players.
But modern MMOs don't do that. They break people up into separate servers.
Which is BS. And back in the olden days, you join a MUD, and just people could keep joining the MUD and keep joining it until the server crashed.
Well, yeah, and The Realm was like that too. Early MMOs were, and they changed that because no hardware could scale to deal with it.
Yeah, well, I think that I'm not going to talk about the technical solution to that, which is obvious and has not yet been executed.
Uh-huh.
But needless to say, the MUD is 30 years old today. Everyone out there who's thinking about, or who is now, if you've only ever played, say, WoW, or if you've never played any of these games, there's still MUDs. You can go to the MUD connector, And MUDs still exist. You can tell that to them very easily. Don't become involved in MUDs. That's going to waste a lot of your time, like I wasted in high school. But go find a MUD and explore it and see what it's like and learn. And you will see how scarily similar the MUDs are to the WoWs out there and the Tabula Rasas and all those other grindy games out there. It's pretty much the same exact game.
Well, there's
only
one
with
big
graphics.
difference. Most MUDs that I hung around in, the maximum level wasn't 60 or 70 or 100. It was like 5,000.
Yep.
And it would take you like a year to get a level at some of the higher levels.
Well, the worst part, right, was that a lot of these MUDs, you would go around the MUD and you would go and you would eventually be fighting the strongest bad guys in the game and there'd be no way to level up.
That
You'd be
happened to me in the realm. I
You'd
got
be
to
so
level-
strong, you would kill like the guards in town in one hit and then be like, what the hell am I supposed to do?
In the realm-
You can't get any better equipments.
I got to level 70. I could kill the King Kilrog, the baddest ass in the game, trivially. He gave me 2 experience. I needed 1,000 to get up a level.
All you could do, right, was make another character, level up just as far, and then have your 2 characters kill each other to get experience. But when they died, they lost experience. It was good times.
Now, a quick quiz, because, MUDs weren't the only thing. There was this whole, back when avatars and shared spaces were kind of the thing on the internet. There were just MUDs. There were Mucks, Mushes, Moos.
Yeah, well, those came later, the Mucks, Mushes, and the Moos.
Quick, what's a Moo?
It's a
Multi-user
object
oriented.
Is it just object oriented?
That's what I mean, usually people call them Moo, duh, because dungeon or whatever at the end. But basically, those were like people, programmers would hang out and code like rooms or code things. Like everything was object oriented. That's the best way I'd explain it. And mushes were like role playing, and I was never.
Oh no,
quite...
Moo didn't stand for multi-user. It stood for MUD, object oriented.
Oh, that made sense.
Yeah, because you remember the original, MUDs were written. It was written for like this old crappy mainframe computer. Well, not crappy. The PDP-10 is not a piece of crap. Well, at least it wasn't in the day. But when object-oriented programming came around. With object-oriented programming, having a text adventure built on that type of program made it a lot easier to make a dungeon. It sort of fits, with all these objects in it. If you ever played a game like, Gemstone 3 on AOL or whatever, you could really tell, with all the different crazy stuff going on there. You can make custom items and stuff like that, and that was, those sorts of features were easy for the people to program into the game because they were using an object-oriented programming language.
And I forget the exact difference between a mush and a muck, but I think they were the ones where there were no rules and role players would go role play, and usually they were scary.
Well, mushes were more like social kind of things, right? Where there's supposed to be role playing going on, I guess theoretically.
Yeah, I think, I'm not going to look it up. It was like multi-user shared something. I don't know.
Yeah, and I think it was social something. And I think Muck was Chat Kingdom. And I don't remember the point of what those are supposed to be. I just remember it was Chat Kingdom.
It was for people who...
Because I thought the Chat Kingdom was cool.
Maybe they were just too cool for IRC, or IRC was too cool for them. It's hard to tell which.
Yeah, but anyway... If you don't know about MUDs, and I think a lot of people out there don't, and you really should to understand, gaming history and internet history properly, you should really investigate them and poke at a few to see what the deal is.
I still would say,
especially
though,
now on the 30th anniversary.
I wouldn't call them MMOs, because that word has really come to mean something pretty specific nowadays. Well, MMORPG means something very specific nowadays, and I really would say that...
Well, I do
I would say that from the realm to today is the same era of massively multiplayer games, and everything before that was this entirely different era.
I do agree that it's a different thing now because it's graphical, but really
Not
the
just
underlying game is the exact same thing. It's so the exact same thing.
But it's the same. Look at how like people say, first gen platformers, second gen platformers, or like the NES days, the SNES days. The fundamental concepts of the games are the same. All that's changed is the technology, the presentation, all those sorts of things. New things were made possible by technology. It's just the NES era, the SNES era.
The thing
MUD
is,
era,
when you
the
look
MMO
at something
era.
like, say, compare Super Mario Brothers to Mario 64, right? It's still a platformer. It's still jump on the bad guy, etc. But the 3D-ness of it, was game changing. The graphics, added to the MUD to make the the modern MMORPG. Didn't really change the game. It's the same game. You just look at it and click instead of typing.
See, the complexity has gotten to the point where I would call it a different game, just because the interface allows so much more.
The interface allows less. A text-based interface is the most flexible of all interfaces.
Except for the fact that the vast majority of mods, you could type up, down, left, right, kill, equip, unequip. Like, it was still very rigid. And in fact, the fact that it was text-based prevented most people from playing it. Like, in terms of who played, why they played, how they played, everything is completely different now. Different kinds of people play for completely different reasons.
Oh yeah, that's for sure.
I feel like it's really worth it to use the terms to differentiate between these two eras.
Yeah, but I don't know if those terms are right.
Well,
there definitely should be, a way to differentiate between the two.
I'll say this.
But I don't know if those terms are
I'm going to say this. The terms are right, and I say they're right because that's how everyone in the world uses them.
Yeah, people, there are so many circumstances.
Wait a minute. Are you advocating prescriptive language?
No.
Is this what's happening here?
No, where are you going with this? I'm saying is that there are so many instances in the world, and especially in the English world, and especially on the internet, of all sorts of terms being used in literal and non-literal and wrong and right and backwards and sideways meanings that I'm really just getting tired of the whole thing, and we should just pretty much, whenever people are using terms weirdly or wrongly, just go, whatever, fuck it.
What? So then I'm right, and that's how those terms are.
No,
now.
I'm saying is that there is no right. Just let it be, whatever.
Well, yes, there is no right. The meaning of language is determined by the users, and the users determine collectively that MMO basically means something different from MUD. Well,
so says
MMO
you.
RPG. I think most people will agree. I call them two separate eras. We'll leave it at that. Anyway, things of the day. So Emily showed this to us a long time ago, and it's so well executed that I've kind of been just saving it for the day when I would use it as a thing of the day. And I kind of forgot about it, and then I remembered it, added it back to my delicious, and then I thought, hey, didn't I already use this? And I couldn't find it, so a boot to the head, Phoenix Wright. I find this hilarious. It's utterly well executed. I'll leave it at that.
Oh, I also have a Phoenix Wright, if you will.
Oh, really?
Oh, perhaps. Oh my god, wait, the site has other things.
All right, well, you can save those for another day.
I don't know if I can. Well, maybe I'll have to.
So what's this thing of the day?
So, I guess people on Wednesday shows would be more familiar. Of course, I think most people listen to all our shows, but whatever. In Japan, they have the garage kits. And basically, the idea of a garage kit is that some super nerd, like the nerdiest of all nerdy otaku in the universe, makes their own toy or their own figurine or whatever it is, right?
Well, their own partially nude, semi-erotic figurine.
Right. Well, most of the time partially nude, semi-erotic, but not always.
Well, half the time.
Sometimes they're robots.
The other half the time, it's a robot. Or,
right.
well, a mecha, most likely.
Yes. But as a result, in Japan, they also just make really high-quality toys, mostly because you got to be able to compete with the garage kits. So here are 4 amazing-looking, at least as far as I'm concerned, Phoenix Wright figures. And there's an Emma Sky. I think I gotta be sending some monies over the ocean. It's but actually, if you look around on the side of this site, I didn't notice. There's a whole bunch of other figures I did not notice previously to just 2 seconds ago, including Lupin and Jigen in spacesuits.
Oh snap! All right, I'll have to check this
with
out.
Space helmets and
after the show.
And possibly the best Hatsune Miku figure I've ever seen.
Ooh.
I might have to send even more money
All right.
across the ocean. Anyway, Phoenix Wright toys that if you're a Phoenix Wright fan, you'll want. The end.
So there's a company, a video game company called Introversion Software, and if you're not familiar with the
Funny
name,
how we're not really introverted.
huh?
Huh?
So
What?
how would that be funny?
We're talking about introversion, but we're all extroverted.
That's like saying, huh? Funny you're talking about apples. You're not an apple.
No, it's more like funny you're talking about apples. You're an orange.
That's not any. No, doesn't work. Anyway, if you don't know who they are, and I'll admit that I didn't for the longest time, but Darwinia, Defcon, Uplink, Multiwinia, all made by the same company.
Right, way back in the day, I don't know, not too far back in the day, there was a game called Uplink, and Uplink is a pretty cool game because if you ever watch a movie, right, a movie like Hackers or something, right, or what was that, The Net? Remember that movie?
Man, The Net. That movie was very reminiscent.
Where there was like some hacks in Wolfenstein 3D in the beginning or something like that?
That movie was very reminiscent of the time period from which it was wrought.
Indeed. But you ever watch a movie like that, and the hacking in the movie doesn't look anything like real hacking. You know, at least in that one Matrix movie, like the hacking was, she did like this, you know, sort of frequently, you know, well-known SSH crack. And it was just a terminal and someone, you know, executing a program. And that at least was semi-real, even though it didn't match what they said they were doing. But, you know, movie hacking, it looks like you're like, you know, fucking war games or whatever, you know? It's a map of the world, there's a bunch of lines going across it, and, you know, someone's tracing you, oh man.
War games was actually very realistic in its hacking, though.
Somewhat. More so than Hackers in the Net, at least.
Well, Hackers was what we wish hacking was like. Hackers is to hacking and computer science what the craft was to Wicca.
Right. So, Uplink was a game that sort of simulated that, you know, movie hacking. Like, you play it and you're a hacker, but you feel like you're a movie hacker because it looks like movie hacking, and it's like, oh man. So that game was pretty cool. And that game sort of made this company, you know, some money, and it made them, you know, popular and well-known. It took this indie game company, and they were still indie. They didn't make it big, but they made it a little better than the bottom rungs. They were able to keep going and keep rocking. And they made, I think the next game was Darwinia. Darwinia was the next game.
I've never actually played Darwinia.
Darwinia is like a single-player RTS kind of game. You know, it's like...
well, basically, I do know this much. Here's the history. Darwinia came out. Everyone said, wow, that would have been a great game if it had multiplayer.
Well, it was originally intended to be a multiplayer game, but I guess the technology or whatever at the time prevented them from making it multiplayer. It had to be, you know, and they ended up just taking what they did and making the single-player game because that's all they could pull off. And around that time, they also, you know, managed to partner up with Valve and Steam, and they got the distribution, you know, more prominent and whatnot, as opposed to just sort of trying to sell it out on their website. You know, Uplink was real slow to catch on and, you know, sort of bubbled up from underneath, you know, but as soon as they, you know, Valve Steam came around, it was like, aha, here's those guys. There they are.
But we're not going to talk about all their other games. I don't really want to talk a lot about the company, though. Some of that will be unavoidable at the end of this because there's kind of a sad tale to Multiwinia. But Multiwinia, basically, Scott played the demo and then he bought it. And I basically, based on what I'd heard from everyone else, bought the game sight unseen. I just assumed, all right, this game's going to be great, and I just bought it.
Yeah. Yeah, Darwinia was this, you know, when I played Darwinia, it was basically, I was a little with the controls. I mean, I played actually a really early version of Darwinia, had like these mouse gestures and weird crap going on and whatnot. But it was a game that it was like an RTS, but it wasn't an RTS. You know, instead of, you know, like controlling individual guys, you sort of had these Darwinians everywhere, and you controlled sort of their flow. You know, you would upgrade Darwinians to be like, okay, you're now a commander, and he would, you know, say, everyone go over there. So any Darwinians that were near him would do what he said to do. And, you know, you could do certain things, you know, like drop bombs here or send an engineer over there and that sort of thing. But you know, it solved all the problems I had with RTSs of the past, which was, you know, really fiddly controls of manipulating lots and lots of tiny things and making it difficult to actually execute a strategy of any sort.
Because I've been I love the idea of RTSs, and I love strategic combat and war games and all that.
It's like a turn-based, you know, strategy game, a war game, but it's in real time, so it's not slow. You don't sit there forever and ever and ever.
I beat both sides of Command and Conquer, and yet I really, in retrospect, like I kept trying to tell myself, this is great. But honestly, I hated every minute of it. It was it was absolutely unfun, and I hated it. I absolutely hated it, and I hate most RTSs, to be perfectly honest.
I don't hate RTSs. It's weird. It's like I actually like them. The problem is that whenever I play multiplayer, say multiplayer StarCraft, right? Or even just skirmish StarCraft, I pick a map and it's one-on-one, you know, me against the computer on the easiest or normal mode, right? And it's not the campaign. In the campaign, I can actually get pretty far. It's in the, just regular battle mode. You both start with, the one unit and you go for it. They kill me every single time. I can't even get anywhere. I just get crushed.
Well, see,
and I can't, it's like you have to memorize the exact right order to build the things in and click quickly enough to build them without wasting any time. And then, and the end goal is pretty much build the biggest, bestest units, as many as you can.
Not necessarily. Sometimes it's build a lot of small, weak units and send them at your opponents.
Well, that's if you're the Zerg, or, but you build whatever it is you're supposed to build and then send it at the enemy and then you win. Or you might have to do it again. It's not a lot of complexity going on there.
Well, see, the reason I guess I said I hate RTSs is that every time I play one, I envision strategy. I envision, I'll send this unit to the north on a scouting expedition to skirmish and see if there are any bad guys in those woods so I can get those resources. Meanwhile, I want an actual skirmish line here, and I have all these supply lines and strategies, and I think all this out, but then the game, either by interface or by design or by just anything about it, will not actually let me play that kind of game. And I'm playing a very different kind of game where the strategies usually boil down very quickly to either, as Scott said, clicking quickly or memorizing a pattern, or there's usually a very small number of specific ways to win. And
yeah, like, for example, in Warcraft 3, right? For any, my brother played that a lot, and he was actually pretty good at it. And the thing is, basically the idea of that game was, number one, you manage this hero. So you had to play this little hero game while you played the regular RTS. And basically the goal is to level up the hero because you only had one and not let him die. All right. The other part of the game was, build up, and you pretty much picked one unit. So, like, if you were the orcs, say, right, you could go, I don't remember the specifics, so if I'm wrong, shoot me. You could go for, like, the Taurens or, say, the dragons, right? So the orcs had, like, 3 or 4 big units to choose from. So you would go for one of those. So there are actually, like, 4 different patterns to choose from. But it was more of a rock, paper, scissors kind of thing. If the other guy picked this thing, then it was better for you to pick dragons. But you had to go and find out. And if you spent the time to go and find out, you would fall behind in the race to get, your guys built fast enough and whatnot. And it wasn't really a game of military strategy or anything like that. It was a game of remember one of the patterns, execute the pattern that you remembered, do it as quickly as possible, don't let the hero die, level up the hero at the end.
But thus, why I always ended up hating RTSs. I'd play them, much like when I played WarioWare for the Wii, and the whole time I would think, this could be so much better than it is, and could be so much more than it is. And I'd always think about the game I want to be playing, realize that the game I was playing was not that game, turn it off, and go play Weapons Factory.
Yeah.
Or Counter-Strike.
Well, I think the one problem of wanting the RTS that you want, I also want the RTS that you want, right?
I actually wrote something in high school. It's probably on that stupid hard drive I have that's crashed that also has the 8 people monologue.
Uh-huh.
But I wrote this long thing that was basically, I set forth all the precursors that would need to exist technologically and programmatically to allow the kind of RTS I want to exist.
Yeah, I think think about, right, what it takes to do, the real military, in real time. You have these, hierarchy of command, one person gives a very generic command, then another person breaks it down, another person breaks it down, and eventually you have like this squad commander who breaks it down into you walk that way, you walk that way,
Well, I
need that whole structure. And so it's very difficult to make a game where you are at the top but yet are, doing the work of this entire chain of command in real time. In turn-based games, you can pull it off because you have all the time in the world. In a real-time game, it's sort of impossible without incredibly advanced AI or without a whole bunch of physical human players all on the same team, all taking roles in the hierarchy.
It's funny you say that because I had a 10-point list of these are the 10 things that must exist. And I remember that I wrote better AI 9 times, and most of the paper was talking about all the reasons you need AI to have a true RTS.
Exactly.
But
and
anyway,
the thing that Multiwinia, right?
I was about to say we should stop talking about RTSs and talk about Multiwinia.
The thing that Multiwinia gets right is much like Darwinia, you don't control the individual units. You control very few units who are sort of like you're at the top of the hierarchy of military command. You command these big Darwinian guys, and you have a few other commands you can do. And the troops just sort of do what the few big guys, are commanding them to do. And thus, you can actually control a bigger, your massive forces in a complex and more strategic way. And it's not perfect. We're going to get to that.
It's kind of like you can set up all your like flows of guys and units and stuff, and then you zoom out, watch the situation, watch what the other guy's doing, and then react accordingly. Like, I should direct more guys to that eastern front because he's really laying it on there. Or, there's a crate over there and I see him going toward it. I better send a formation that way to stop him.
Exactly.
And I really wanted to like Multiwinia. Like, I played through the demo, and here's where this sad tale really begins. I bought Multiwinia, I installed it, I heard great things.
Well, the sad tale begins with the fact that they were selling Multiwinia, right, in a pack. $20, you get Multiwinia and Darwinia. Now, I already own Darwinia. Now, when Valve sold us the orange box, and I bought it, right, I already owned most of the games in it, except for Portal and TF2 and Half-Life Episode 2. So they gave me a free copy of Half-Life 2 and a free copy of Half-Life Episode 1 to give to someone else. Now, Rim did not own Darwinia, and I did, so I thought that by buying the pack with Darwinia and Multiwinia for $20, I'd get a free copy of Darwinia and be able to give it to somebody, right? No such luck. I basically have paid for Darwinia twice and only gotten it once. That was the beginning of the badness.
Now, for me, the beginning was, I install it, I go to the menu, I look around, I spent 10 minutes trying to find the menu to change my controls. And I kept thinking, it's got to be here. Maybe I'm stupid. I got to find the manual
normally,
or something.
changing controls in an RTS isn't a big deal because it's, just move the mouse around and click on things in sort of a two-dimensional plane. And then, there are, hotkeys for some shortcuts that not too many people change. I guess some people change them, but not that I don't.
No, this game, you basically have your two-dimensional movement, strafing and moving forward and back. And they're hard-coded to WASD.
Yeah, because it's a 3D game, and most of the controls are camera control. Rotating the map, zooming in, zooming out.
There is
spinning.
no reason for this game to actually be 3D. The 3D really...
The reason for the game to be 3D is because of the terrain, having highs and lows, and the guy, moving up a hill and moving down a hill. That's the reason for the game to be 3D.
Yeah, but at the same time, you could have had the same effect with a game that was more two-dimensional and thus easier to control and easier to see. But I digress.
That's true.
So, all right, I have to use WASD. Now, I've never used WASD. Like, in my entire life, I used completely different sets of controls.
I never used WASD either until I got the Happy Hacking keyboard. Then I just forced myself to use it because I said, you know what? I won't have the big arrows like I did on my previous keyboards. Every game uses WASD by default. I'll just get used to it, even though I hate it, and then it'll be real easy to play every game, and it's paid off.
I'm kind of able
But I
to
can
deal with
understand if I'd never bought the Happy Hacking keyboard, I would be right there with Rim bitching and moaning that it forces you to use WASD.
I kind of could be okay with WASD, except for the fact that W is way off to the left.
That was my problem, too. That's why I never liked it. I just forced myself to get used to that.
I just made sure nothing was bound to E, so when I hit E and W at the same time, it didn't cause a problem. But, all right, I can deal with that. I'll live with that. Mouse isn't inverted, and that is much more crippling than I would have expected.
Yeah, I don't use the inverted mouse unless I'm in a vehicle of some sort, usually a flying vehicle, and then I must have an inverted mouse, but I can understand if someone wants an inverted mouse in their 3D games and they don't got it.
Because it seems like, a lot of people, most new FPSers definitely use the non-inverted mouse, and a lot of old FPSers use the inverted mouse, but it looks like it's 50-50 or at least 60-40 in favor of non-inverted, but a lot of people use an inverted mouse. And I remember at PAX, we were playing a demo of some, tribes-like game, and of the 20 people standing around playing, there were 10, well, there were more like 8 people, who couldn't play because it was not inverted, and they couldn't figure out how to make it inverted.
Mm-hmm.
But this game, I can't invert it. So between the WASD and the fact that I can't invert, I really can't play the game because all my muscle memory causes me to always zoom. I'm okay when I'm setting up the game in the beginning, but as soon as I need to be reacting quickly, I just cannot control the game at all. I can't play Multiwinia.
Yeah. I am able to play it. I sort of got used, even though there are other problems in the controls that I have issue with. Sometimes you can't select the guys you want exactly, and Sometimes like you'll tell a guy to go in one direction and he sort of takes a different path, and sometimes you'll it's hard to get the guys to make formations sometimes, because the way to make a formation is to click on a guy, then click right next to him. But if there's something else right next to him, you might click on that, and you can't always get the formation exactly the way you want it.
Yeah,
and you can't tell the guys to strafe. So, like, if you want a formation in a particular place facing a certain direction, you might actually have to tell him to walk one way, then rotate, then walk another way.
That I agree with, because that is the element of the formations that causes them to be so strategic. Those are the kinds of concerns that formation fighting has had since the dawn. I mean, Phalanx is...
But a formation of dudes, you could order them in practice and have them all walk right.
Depending on the formation, maybe not. There were a lot of formations that couldn't. And also, without that restriction, formations become an order of magnitude more powerful because of the way they're implemented. And it really removes one of the few really strategic things in that, one of the few really tactical things in that game. The formations being the way they are, I think, is perfect.
Yeah. It's just sometimes, what you want to execute, you can't do. And the only other, complaint of that variety that I have is that sometimes, like, I'll tell a formation to move, and like I'll say, formation, move, like, just forward a little bit, right? And the guy will like start spinning around in a circle, and then all the guys will bunch up, and it doesn't, it's like, come on, this is simple, guys, all right? It just messes up sometimes. Sometimes they'll walk into a wall. Come on. RTS is walking into walls. I thought we figured that one out at least.
You know how many men I lost to my own harvesters? But anyway, so this is not the problem. I mean, these are minor things. I could even overlook the control thing because the game is otherwise good. But if you go online right now, you have Multiwinia, you buy it, and you say, hey, I want to play a game with someone. And you click on, servers, and you look. There is currently one game of Multiwinia going on, and it is full.
Wow.
One. There are 2 other games, but they say beta test, and it doesn't look like I can join them. They only have 1 person in each of them.
Yeah, it's kind of sad.
I can't join them.
I mean, when the game first came out, right, looked like there were a whole bunch of games going on online, but really there was a bug that made single-player games show up online, and so it looked like there was a lot of games being played. After they fixed that bug, it was sort of barren. And not only that, but the multiplayer, a lot of it just didn't work.
Now, reports vary, but the agreement seems to be that for the first couple days after Multiwinia was released, a lot of people just couldn't play online.
Well, I remember when DEF CON came out, right? That also had a lot of problems where the multiplayer didn't work a lot of times. You said connecting 1, 2, 3. And the mistake they made is that, if you play... Look, if you want to play something like Half-Life 2, right? Someone else set up a server somewhere, and everyone connects to it and plays. Hooray. If you want to play... if you try to set up your own Half-Life server, it's a pain in the ass. You set up your port forwarding on your router, and you got to get a static IP and all the other... it's a pain. It's not easy. You have to know about networking, at least somewhat. Darwinia and Multiwinia being PC games in the modern era where pretty much everyone has a NAT router, all right? And all the NAT routers are different. When you want to play multiplayer, you either join, which means directly connect to someone else's computer, or someone directly connects to you. The solution to this is to do what Skype does, right? Skype also has this problem. The way Skype solved it is they have an intermediary server that does some NAT busting. They did not provide this. Thus, you're trying to directly connect your computer or directly host on your computer a server for other people to connect to on the internet. You have to mess with the port forwarding and the routing and all this network stuff, and it
worked. The thing is, it worked for a lot of people, but it didn't work for everyone, and it didn't work for enough people early on to where there was a lot of bad taste in the mouth of the internet, and there's a lot of bad press.
We tried to play a LAN game, and it didn't work.
Now, for
us, and we know what we're doing.
Now, luckily, it didn't work, and then the next day it worked.
We finally got it to work. It was, a huge pain, but...
Even then, I don't know, I feel like the game had such potential, and I talk more about the game, because I play all the different modes, and the game's really fun, and I'd like to play it, but I think I'm only going to be playing it with Front Row Crew people, or Scott, or Alex, or people like that, because no one's playing it online, and the game is basically dead.
Well, that's a problem we could talk about a little bit, and then I'll talk about the game modes and whatnot, and that'll be it. Is that online games sort of have this momentum problem, right? Where if no one is playing the game online, no one else will start playing the game because no one's online. And you can see this, for example, if you look at, natural selection, right? If you go look at the list of natural selection servers at any given moment in time, every server will either be empty, right? Or it will have a bunch of bots, right? And maybe someone's playing with the bots, but not really. Or it'll be crazy full and crowded. And the thing is, no one wants to join the server that's zero. Everyone wants to join in where there's other people already playing. And thus, if no one's playing, you have this catch-22 of no one's going to play. No one's going to start a server if there aren't any out there. So you might have 1 million people looking at this list of servers where it says 0, and they could be playing with each other, but nobody clicks play. No one, because they don't want to join the 0.
Now,
if I join a natural selection server with 0 and get one of, an FRC person to also join it to get the number to 2, suddenly the server fills up every time, guaranteed. Bam, the server fills up every time. So I think that, Multiwinia is having this problem right now where there's, the community isn't big by any means. But there might be 20 people out there looking at this list of 0 not playing.
No, because every time I make a server, no one ever joins. Ever. Ever. But
it
anyway,
could be the network problem.
Yeah, it's hard to say. But what they really needed was an outside server with like a ready room, someplace people could chat, set up ladders, they should have like staged events where they say, yeah, at 5 o'clock, everyone join the big official server. And
this is also, right, this is what Nintendo got wrong too, is that they didn't do online multiplayer the way it had been done for ages and the way that it always worked properly, the way that, the way the Counter-Strike does it, the way that Tribes did it right. They died for other reasons.
But there are more problems than this. Even if you get someone to join your game, like you buy the game, you're new, you want to play online with someone, the only people left playing Multiwinia who will join your game are people who are 1 million times better than you and will crush you immediately.
Mm-hmm.
So the game is now almost 100% noob unfriendly.
Yeah, no one, that's why a lot of games, even other RTSs like Warcraft 3 and whatnot sort of have this, ranking system where it's like, it'll match you up with someone who's a similar rank. And if you keep crushing people, it raises your rank up.
Seriously?
And then
the Nintendo matchup system for like Mario Kart would have worked better than what Multiwinia has now.
Yeah, actually, that would have worked better because all you would do is say, I want to play Multiwinia. And then boom, you're in a game with someone. And it tries to match you up with someone with a relative skill level.
I just feel like the game was a really good concept and great ideas, but it's like they forgot all the basics of making a multiplayer game.
Exactly what I'm trying to say.
One, can't change the controls? That's like the immortal sin of a PC game.
Yeah, there's a Flash game out right now that's making the rounds, right? And it's basically just a platformer, but it's a little bit parkour-esque in many ways, and you're basically trying to navigate a platform place and whatnot, but and avoid dangerous robots. But the controls on it are messed up. It's difficult to make tiny and subtle jumps because of the way the controls are set up. And so many games these days are great in many aspects. They've got the ideas great. Even the execution of the idea is great. But all the fundamental things that are just sort of basic things common to all games are messed up. The controls are not smooth. The multiplayer doesn't work. There's basic things like that these people are failing on. You can't customize the controls. And if they didn't fail on those, fundamental things that need to be true and set in a certain way for all games, there'd be a lot more awesome games out there. But
making a PC game where you can't just in a menu change your controls in this modern era is like making a car that doesn't have doors.
Yeah, seriously. But anyway,
and when someone complains saying, well, what would you want doors for? No one else has doors. Everyone else is fine without doors.
It's like NASCAR climbing the window, right? Okay. So before, I'll end just talking about the cool game modes in Multiwinia, because Multiwinia does have cool game modes, right?
Yeah, I mean, there's like domination, just, beat the other guy.
Domination is basically there are spawn points that are, army generators, and you basically try to capture more than the other guy. So
it's fun.
Usually the maps are symmetrical. It's fair. You fight, whatever. There's King of the Hill, which is where there's these scoring zones, and you try to get more of your guys in the scoring zones per unit time. So it's not who has them at the end. It's, every guy you have in there, and every second that they're in there, you're getting points. So you try to just funnel all your guys into these scoring zones to get more points than the other guy.
I'd say that's the second most fun mode.
It's pretty fun.
My favorite mode is statue.
Statue is pretty good.
You gotta go grab the statue, and your little dudes have to carry it back.
Yeah, so you have these statues, right? You send guys over to the statue, they pick it up, and try to carry the statues to the scoring zones. And if you want, the maps are symmetrical yet again, so you could, just play along with the other guy. No one fights each other, and you just each capture an equal number of statues, and the game's over. But when guys are the more guys you have at a statue, the more they lift it. But guys carrying a statue can't fight. So you need to send guys over to defend the statue. And, if you don't have enough guys at a statue, they'll drag it slower, or they might even drop it. So it's really easy to go and attack the other guy carrying the statue and fuck him up, and then it gets pretty rough. One of the modes I like best is sort of like the assault mode, where there's big bases that are set up at the beginning. And one side is the defender of the base, and one side is the attacker. And the attacker gets floods and floods of guys, but the defender has this really good entrenched position with turrets and everything. And you sort of have to keep them. You have to basically protect your base until the end. And the only other mode that I can remember right now is the nuke mode, which is actually pretty creative in how it works. There's these sort of solar panels, and you send your guys out to capture solar panels, and the solar panels fuel your rocket, right? And so you're fighting over all these solar panels in different areas of the map. But you've also got the rocket. Now, you want your rocket to get 100% fuel and lift off before the other guy does just that. Now, even when it gets to 100% fuel, or even before it gets to 100% fuel, you can actually attack the other guy's rocket directly. Thus, the other guy could get to 100% fuel, then you go blow up his rocket. Now you've got, even if you had less solar panels than he did, you've got, 70% fuel, he's got 0. What you gonna do now? Defend that rocket, and then you win. It's actually sort of like this crazy, strategies that can emerge of, should I go for more solar panels, thus having less guys to defend my rocket? Should I, just try to defend my rocket, get a few solar panels that he won't bother taking from me, and then attack his rocket with a crazy powerful force when it gets close to full, but then taking the risk that it takes off, and it gets pretty hairy. So it is clever game modes. You have an RTS where you sort of you don't control things at the minute level, so you can actually deal with it, and it's fun, and not complex strategies, well, not uber complex, but decent enough strategies emerge. It's not just about clicking fast or remembering a pattern. It's about, controlling the flow of units, almost more like Tron than like most RTSs. Watching how the other guy's flow changes and changing your own flow accordingly. But the fundamentals of the game, the things that are common to all games, the network, the networking, changing your controls,
and
basic user interface. Before
anyone writes to us with some angry hate mail, yes, I'm aware of the hack way to change your controls. It is hackish to the extreme. It still doesn't fix half the things I want to do with the controls. And that's so newbie unfriendly that basically if Introversion expects that to be the answer, to basically have to hack your own game to change the controls, you're not going to make any more sales with that.
Hacking doesn't count. It's like, our game doesn't have that problem because you can hack it in. If you want to make that excuse, right, then I can make the same argument that, GTA had prawn in it because you could hack it, right? No, if something is hacked into a game, it's not part of the game and cannot be judged as part of the game. It is separate. And it does not, excuse the fact that, the network works if you just employ this patch that you get from some untrustworthy source. No, the network doesn't work. You can change the controls, if you employ this, incredibly difficult thing over here.
And you don't bind anything to equals. God help you if you bind anything to equals.
Yeah. All right, that doesn't work either, right?
I guess it's just Introversion kind of dropped the ball on this one, and unless they fix all these problems and kind of re-release the game, I would already call Multiwinia effectively dead.
Yeah, that is a problem, right? As you put out a game, you have problems. Even if you fix it, it's really hard to bring a game back from the dead. You gotta
back from the dead.
You have to find some source of players that will surge into the game and just fill it up as if it were a new game. And with an indie title like this, that's not uber popular and it only appeals to a sort of a hardcore niche off to the side demographic, because who does it appeal to? It doesn't appeal really to RTS people. They're going for StarCraft 2 and whatnot. It doesn't appeal to, I guess it appeals to some indie, people who are specifically into the indie games.
It appeals to Introversion fans, and it appeals to me, but I can't play the game because the controls are out of whack.
Yeah.
Oh, well.
And that's the thing. If you're appealing to the hard, if this game was trying to aim for a less hard, it was more of a, a general game for the masses, you can get away without inverted mouse because only, gamers care about inverted mouse. So, to be honest, people self-identify as gamers would care about inverted mouse. No one else would care. But, they know that this is only available on like Steam and their website. It's not like a game you buy at Walmart. So you can't leave that shit out. You're just asking for it.
Isn't it on the Xbox?
Is it? I don't know.
I don't know either.
How could you play it on the Xbox? That must be a nightmare.
It would probably be better than what I got going now.
Yeah. I don't know if it's
honestly,
playable
though,
on anything else.
If I were them, they probably would have done much better to release it on the Xbox if they're going to make it the way it is.
Also, DEF CON had network problems, and so did Multiwinia. If Introversion, if you don't
I
die...
believe you mean Uplink.
Yeah. If you don't die because of, the lack of success for Multiwinia, if you're still around to make another game, I suggest that you write new netcode or come up with some sort of new network thing. Maybe even, spend some of your, short, low funds to get some sort of server set up, to resolve these network issues so that it's very easy for people to just,
also,
start the game and play. And it works.
You have a server online, populate it with servers that look like real games, but are actually bots from your end.
Yeah, or
just trick
people that work at Introversion, when the game is new, just play the game.
Interns.
All day. Yeah, get some interns to play the game to give people someone to play against and, have them play on easy mode and help people out and be nice and noob friendly. I talked about MUDs at the start of the show, and one thing about MUDs is that when you joined a MUD for the first time, even though not everyone in the MUD was awesome, right? There would always be, if the MUD wasn't dead, someone in the MUD playing who would stop playing because, who needs to grind that much, and come and talk to you and teach you how to play the MUD, even if you'd never played a MUD before in your life. They would show you around, tell you what to do, give you some items, all that good stuff. And I think a lot of, more difficult multiplayer games nowadays could really use something like that. And, it just doesn't happen out, doesn't happen on Nintendo because there's no chat, and it doesn't happen, here because they don't run any servers.
Oh, well. Luckily, I can still play NS, and I've been playing more NS than I have been pretty much any game for the last couple weeks.
Yeah, I've been mostly reading, but I'm almost done with this book, and then video games will be fourth.
This has been Geeknights with Rim and Scott. Special thanks to DJ Pretzel for the opening music.
Be sure to visit our website at www.frontrowcrew.com, where you'll find show notes, links, our awesome forum, a link to our Frapper map, and links to all the RSS feeds.
We say feeds plural because Geeknights airs 4 nights a week, covering 4 different brands of geekery. Mondays are science and technology. Tuesdays, we have video games, board games, and RPGs. Wednesdays are anime, manga, comic nights. And Thursdays are the catch-alls for various rants and tomfoolery.
You can send us feedback by email to geeknights@frontrowcrew.com. Or you can send audio feedback via audio. Just click the link that says Send Me an Audio on the right side of our website.
If you like what you hear, you can catch the last 100 episodes in iTunes or in your favorite podcatcher. For the complete archives, visit the website, which has everything.
Geeknights is distributed under a Creative Commons Attribution Non-Commercial Share-alike 2.5 license. This means you can do whatever you want with it as long as you give us credit, don't make money, and share it in kind. Geeknights is recorded live with no studio and no audience. But unlike those other late shows, it's actually recorded at night.